So after I had applied the primer, I sanded it down with some 3000 grit sanding sponges from Tamiya to make it completely smooth. I then decided to go with a black, as I'm still building an homage to the actual Fast and Furious car, so jet black it was. I filled up the airbrush, tested if it was thin enough straight out of the bottle. It was, so then I proceeded on to painting the first parts. So first off, before applying the first coat, I went over it with just some air through the airbrush to blow off any loose or remaining dust, and then applied the first light thin coat. So now that the hood, front and rear part have been applied with a first coat of black, I moved on to those hard to reach, easy to forget spots on the body, and then the main body itself. So as you can see, the first coat is really thin. It's not going to cover it completely. I think it's about 45% there. The second coat will fix this mostly, the third coat will probably fix it all the way, and the fourth coat will be applied just to be sure. The important thing is to keep it in a thin coat, as the thinner the coat, the nicer and more even it will spread out over the body, and the better of a finish it will leave. And it will also not interact or eat into the plastic, as thicker coats can be really aggressive towards the plastic or the primer, ruining the entire finish, and that's not what you want. So as I always say, just better to apply one more thin coat than have one coat applied too thick. So the first coat is now applied. I set the body aside for about 5 minutes to dry off, then got back into it after those 5 minutes and applied the second coat. I'm not going heavy, I'm just going the same thickness as I did for the first coat, as that is more than enough. And as I said, I'm going to go apply another extra coat just to be sure, so no need to hurry and mess it up with one thick coat. So as you can see, this coat is starting to get a full coverage. I let it dry for another 5 minutes, then applied a third coat which looks pretty much exactly the same as this coat, let it dry for another 5 minutes, and then moved on to applying the fourth and final coat. Now this fourth coat might not be necessary, but the problem with black, in a darker lighting situation, it looks like it's completely covered, but once you hold it up into the sunlight, you can clearly see that some spots are not fully covered all the way. So just to get that out of the way, I applied a fourth and final coat. This one is a bit thicker than the first 3 coats, but still not super thick, just to be sure that everything is nicely covered and has a nice even finish all around. The fourth and final coat has now been applied. Everything is fully covered to my liking, so I set it aside for about 45 minutes. Now since I'm not going to be applying any decals to the body, I did not need to take it out, and as you can see, it dried up really nice, has a super shiny eggshell finish. Now this has to do with the preparations I took in sanding it down with the 3000 grit, and also in the way that I applied the coats in thin layers and not go too thick, as it will spread out nice and even and create a super good base for the clear to be applied to. So I mixed up the 2K Diamond Clear from Zero Paints, started on those hard to reach, easy to forget spots after blowing over the entire body, making sure that there was no dust, and then applied the first light coat to the main body. The first coat was applied and it's already looking nice and shiny, so I set it off for about 5 minutes to cure and then moved on to applying the second coat. The second coat is a bit thicker as we're trying to remove as much orange peel as we can to make it into a nice super shiny finish and not have the need to apply a third coat. So the second and pretty much final coat had been applied, and checked it over on a couple of spots. I was not really happy with those, so there was still a bit of clear in the airbrush, and I hit those spots again just to be sure that it was all nice and smooth and all the way to my liking. After hitting those 2 or 3 spots, I moved on to just setting it aside and letting it cure for about 72 hours, cleaned out the airbrush, and then moved on to the next stage in this build.